Welcome to NewsBeast. This is our year-end wrap-up of the biggest stories of 2011, and today, inevitably, we got to talk Occupy Wall Street. It has really changed the national conversation at the very least. Rebecca, what are your thoughts on Occupy?
It's changed the national conversation, but for how long? I think we were just talking about this, but we really reached, it was a fascinating movement, really admirable in many ways. They had a lot of things to say that I agreed with. But I think as we followed this movement, we watched a couple of months of really making an enormous impact very quickly. And then there was a moment, it seemed, when the protests were being broken up in New York, when they were being offered office space in Los Angeles, when they really had an opportunity to make a decision about whether this was going to be a movement that engaged with the political process or one that was just purely a protest movement that was disruptive and not charged with any particular goals. They seem to have made that decision, which I think is disappointing for those of us who've just been watching from afar, because we're now seeing them blocking ports and interrupting people's work lives, and the goals seem still murky, if not totally unstated and unclear.
Yes, I mean, they certainly did a good job of making Bloomberg's flaws apparent.
That's true.
That, I would say, is one of the biggest accomplishments.
It's one thing to say we see problems, because certainly we all see problems. It's another thing, at a certain point you have to start offering solutions, though, or you go nowhere.
Absolutely, and that I totally agree with you. I mean, that's their basic failure, right? Being a professional protester rarely solves problems. You got to have to engage.
It's fun though. You get to stay in a tent.
Right, and you know, I covered this. I remember actually like the first day where they occupied Zuccotti Park, because I live very near there, so it was very easy to cover, you know, the Zuccotti Park part of this.
How convenient for you.
It was convenient, as a matter of fact. But you know, and they're right across the street from Ground Zero, which I have, you know, the occasional surfacing of 9/11 truther rhetoric I found really reprehensible. But it was, you know, if you were down there a lot, you recognize that this was a counterculture collective that was trying to make a very important point. And they deserve total credit, I think, for shifting the national conversation. We're talking about the growth of the super rich in this country.
And they forced Obama to engage with some of these issues and really talk about the ways that Wall Street is completely run.
Absolutely. And not just the Democrats. I mean, you know, even Republicans realize that they've got an issue here, and that the way the bailouts were done, and highlighting too big to fail, and most importantly, I mean, the growing wealth gap between the super rich and the middle class getting squeezed for decades. That's important. It's not socialistic to talk about it. It's important to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And we are talking about it. So they deserve huge credit for that. But as you said, they're at a pivot point. They're an evolution point. And if they continue to go this route of sort of, you know, militant disruption, they're going to alienate the moderate majority of Americans, and that means they will fail. And more importantly, they could also create a backlash that ends up hurting Democrats in the election rather than help.
Do you think that these Occupy Wall Street people will work with Democrats in this election? What do you think the relationship will be between
I don't know, because I think that the far right does a far better job of co-opting the Republican Party than the far left.
The Kochs came in, all of this
AFT,
institutional money came in and helped bring the Tea Party at least somewhat into the fold. I don't know, is there Soros money there? Where is the money coming from,
right
and
now,
what are they doing
37
with it?
different groups are sort of
there
loosely...
There is no money, there's only bongo drums.
They have $500,000, and they're being offered office space and farmland.
And unions are getting very involved, but there's a cautionary tale, you know, because the closer folks get, the more you actually look in an unsentimental way at some of the stuff being advocated. You know, you're going to have a problem. I do think that one of the interesting challenges, I talked to folks down there, there's actually a cynicism about democracy and the democratic process, which is leading to some to say, okay, we'll affect change through other ways. Yeah. And that too, I think, is a real sort of broader concern for the country. I don't think these folks are, you know, deserve to be talked about in the same way as the Arab Spring. It's a fundamentally different struggle. They deserve huge credit for shifting the national debate. Right. But they've got an evolutionary step to decide this winter. And if they choose just to do this disruption stuff, there are going to be more problems than solutions ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Jacob, final word on Occupy.
More.
Less.
Pivot. We'll see what's ahead. That's all from us from NewsBeast. We'll talk to you tomorrow.